Well, looks like we are live. Um, it is such a pleasure. It's Tuesday, it's June. I'm going to ground us in location. I am just outside Dallas. Where are you at right now, Lauren?
I'm just north of Atlanta.
North of Atlanta. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Perfect. Well, I'm so glad. So this is I feel like this is the magic of Substack is that like people first of all, this is the magic of writers. Let's give the writers like the pr- the cred.
The credit. Yes.
The cred. Because I've just found in general that, like, writers are like little hobbits on their own little adventures, and you just never know when you're gonna, like, cross paths again, and I found a lot of trust in that process of, like, people come in, people come out, they kind of, like, move through their own creative work, and I feel like our friendship is kind of like that, because if I recall, you actually came to, like, the early years of the listening room.
Yes. Like
So
pandemic days.
pandemic days, I have never written about that, probably nobody knows what that is, but during the pandemic, I hosted listening rooms, and Lauren came to, at least, like, 1 or 2 of them. I didn't do it for very long because they were pretty intense on the administrative side, but, it was a space where we were trying to practice reading our work out loud and seeing what we can detect inside ourselves when we actually have people listening to our work, and, just a really lovely time, and we met, and today's conversation is to talk about your book. So we won't talk about all of our wonderful history, but we want to talk about your book. And the reason I wanted to talk about it and do a live stream is because a lot of people come across, like, again, like my little journey of how writers come in and out of the publishing spectrum. They're trying to decide like what their story's for. It's
Mm,
like that's often a really big question is like, what was this experience for? Who is it meant for? And what are the paths to actually deciding, does that story belong in digital? Does it belong in print? Does it just belong in a Sunday school room where I feel safe sharing that story?
mm,
And I feel like um, n- even 10 years ago, the options available to writers were fairly slim,
mhm,
fairly limited. But they were maybe starting to diversify a tiny bit. Um, But now we're in a space where, like, anyone can start a Substack publication and start sharing their writing, like, and if you have a voice, that's sort of the magic of what Substack is that you can find your readers. Like, if you are a reader and a writer, like, your people are here. They are here somewhere, and, I think that your story is really interesting. We're gonna dive into it because, a lot of times when I meet writers they don't know what that story is supposed to do next, and oftentimes we just go, "Well, I have to get traditionally published in
mm,
order to
mm.
be a writer." Be a writer and be real, right? I feel like I feel like we all need, like, the writer's version of Velveteen Rabbit that,
Yes.
no, you're real. If the writing's moving through you, you're real. Let's let's talk about, like, let's talk a little bit about when you knew you had a story. Like, tell me a little bit about that because obviously you came into my life when you already had a manuscript, but I'd like to just go back, if you don't mind, and just share a little bit about when did you get an inkling that, like, this needed to be written?
Mm, yeah. I think so for some context for people who are not familiar, the book that I wrote, the manuscript we're talking about, is kind of a travel log. So there's an external journey that I'm physically going through that takes me through India a couple different times, India and Nepal. But there's also an internal journey because as I'm going through India, there's a lot of the work that I'm doing is very like evangelism centric. There's a lot of like faith overtones, and externally, I'm doing this work, but internally, I'm actively deconstructing my faith. So there's these kind of two um, like journey centric storylines, through lines through the work. And I think as I came to the last trip, the last time that I would be on Indian soil, that's when I kind of had this kind of realization. And it was scary, but it was this kind of realization that that I had been living this story and that this story was not always going to belong to me. That this
Mm.
was something that I was given to steward. And I didn't know what that meant. Like you're talking about, like there was a Velveteen Rabbit thing where I'm like, okay, so I need validity. I need somebody to tell me like that this story mattered. Like I need some type of external validation. But the internal validation of just realizing, okay, this is something that I have been granted. It is a gift that I have then have the responsibility to give away. That's kind of when that all happened.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking back to the manuscript because I went through it. It's been a couple of years. How long did it take you to actually write it all down? Like, when you first brought it, like, what were you did you have a sense that you knew what it would be, or did it change on you? Because I think that's important for writers to know is that the first draft may not be the final draft.
Sure. Yes, for sure. Yeah, and the just this one tiny little process of my manuscript has given me such a belief in like the spooky witchiness of stories. They
Yeah.
are like they're meddling. Like they get under your skin and they never stay the same like the way that you want them to be. They're always kind of evolving and wreaking all kinds of havoc along the way. And this story, even though it's nonfiction, it's it's very memoir heavy, but just penning it onto the page was very much like that. So yes, it absolutely evolved, and it took me, I think, from the very first, shitty draft to like all the way through. I think it took maybe 4 years with one single full year being just on one chapter, which is the chapter where I have to come to grips with the fact that I don't believe the things that I used to believe.
Mm. That's a very interesting sort of filter to, like I might actually have you write an essay about that because, there's there's this concept that I appreciate from, like, a contemplative wisdom space. It says, "Write from the scar, not the wound." And I
Mhm.
think that's a really healthy thing for if you're feeling like you can't write it yet. But what I find in practice is that we're often, like, moving toward the scar by
Mhm.
writing about the wound. And
Yeah.
so what I think you just described that actually, that, like, a chapter took a year. How did you stay patient with that process? Maybe you weren't patient. I shouldn't project here. Um,
I don't think I would use the word patient to describe that for me, but I mean, for me, there's only so many places you can hide when you're looking at the same white page every single day. It's only a matter of time. If you're really serious about, being honest with yourself and being honest with the story, eventually like you have to meet it. You have to meet it and do the work. So I wasn't patient necessarily. I was very scared through the process. I was very much there was like lots of backspacing. There was lots of like wrestling with it because I think that the work of putting it on the page was actually the work of me like self-actualizing, like me being honest with myself. My dad has a great saying. I don't know if he heard this somewhere, if this is him, but he says, I don't know what I think until I write it. And that's how I feel as well. Like I don't know what I believe until I can actually put it on a page.
yeah.
So for me, and that's work. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of backspacing and a lot of like unproductive writing hours where you don't really get anything on the page,
Right.
like you're just like, oh, I just all I did was spin my wheels. But I think that's the work.
So, full permission to anyone watching, if a chapter takes a year, trust it. Like, trust that process, like, trust because I know what came together in the end. Obviously, like, you brought your work into the world, and then it seems like there were just a lot of doors that opened up. When we met, I can't recall, can you remind me, did you already know you were gonna be interested in, like, a hybrid publishing path, or were you still were we kind of exploring those options of, like, what traditional versus hybrid might look like?
We were exploring, yeah. That like
That's right.
need for external validation was there, but I didn't know what that looked like. And honestly, I think I had more of a desire to do the story justice. So whatever that ended up looking, if it was like a web series, like on Substack, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But we were exploring that.
Okay. Um, where did you land? So essentially what happened, y'all, is we worked on her manuscript together. I wrote a bunch of notes and I did more developmental editing because what she brought me was a really beautiful like scaffolding of like her work. And then basically my job was I was like, we're gonna pull you like deeper into like the experience, the textures, and oops, my my screen just turned off. Um, and then I just kind of handed it to you and I was like, go forth. go go forth and bring people into it. I think that was the thing. And I think that there's something really powerful about giving people to write a really good first draft that has the structure and the sandboxes to then just go in and play and then get lost again, like in the
Mhm.
actual experience. Where did you go? Because essentially what happened is I just said, bless you. And then you're like, it's getting published. It's getting published. So fill us in on like that process of like who you found to publish with and um, just some of your thoughts here, because I know a lot of folks pause when they think
Mhm.
about hybrid publishing. I mean, even I worked with, hybrid publishers a long time ago. Um, and they just kind of you take your book into the world as more of an
Mhm.
artifact than like an identifying moment for your whole life. Like this is an artifact of my life and now I'm living through it. I'm going to pause now and just hear from you like what was a little bit about that process of like you took the manuscript and was it
Yeah.
still a jumping little fairy taking you on a ride?
It was. Yeah, I reached a point and I think that a lot of people can maybe resonate with this if they have a project that they're really passionate about and they're, devoted to. But I reached a point where I just felt like and forgive me, I'm like 8.5 years pregnant is what it feels like right now. And
Bless,
I'm doing
bless.
I'm doing I'm doing like birth prep, but I read about this moment where people are like, if when a laboring person is in active labor, they feel just the need to push and they can't fight that. So I kind of had this moment where I was like, okay, I've gotten, I've got your amazing dev edits. I've gone through and done the work there. I then went through and got a more granular like line copy editing service, and I just felt like, okay, whatever it looks like, it's time for this to be released. It's time to push. Time to get the baby out. And it was funny after I had decided like I'm going to self-publish, I'm going to finance, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this out there. I happened to meet um, a woman named Stephanie who has a connection to the hybrid publisher that I ended up going with, and Stephanie was awesome. She was actually my line editor, and she was like, before you do anything, you should maybe talk to some connections here. Um, so that's what I did. I just pulled the thread, followed the trail, and it ended up being an amazing partnership with Lake Drive Books, who was my hybrid publisher. They were great, amazing partners, very honoring to the story. They've got a lot of incredible stories in their catalog that are great that I love. It's an honor to sit with them.
Yeah, that's that's amazing. Part of why we're talking today is because I feel like a lot of people are like, "Okay, the book is done. Now everything's better. Now
Mm.
everything's fine," or it's predetermined. And I think that, like, there's nothing that's predetermined in life, and there's nothing that's predetermined about when a book comes into the world. And I wanna just open the floor to you to share, like, what has the process been like since it came into the world? Like, it's been
Mhm.
printed, because you've had a couple fun developments,
Yes.
that you didn't quite see coming, and I want folks to hear what happened.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, stories, they keep meddling. And there was a lot of after it came out, there was a lot of personal fallout for me, because people in my circle, for various reasons, most of which have nothing to do with me and my story, just were uncomfortable by the things that I wrote about and uncomfortable with the idea that I could walk away from believing in some things or that my belief would change. Um, so that was a struggle. And I think it's important to name that because getting the story out there, there was a sacrifice involved, which, is sometimes what has to happen.
Yeah.
Um, but since then, yeah, I've been able to live in a more authentic, um, live out of a more authentic place for me and my where I'm as a person and where I am as like a faith adjacent something,
Yeah.
um but anyway, yeah, the the crazy thing about it though is that that writing about doubt and writing about my frustrations with white evangelicalism in America and writing about all of these things that I just wrestled with actually wound up giving me a scholarship to a seminary at Emory University, and that's the thing that you somehow like pegged when we first talked, which I thought of you immediately. But yeah, I mean, I continued to pull the string. The scholarship felt like it was like I could not walk through that door. So yeah, that's where I am now. I'm a doubtful yet hopeful Jesus person that's in seminary right now, and I'm just following where it leads.
Um, yeah, yeah, this is why we're talking today because the context in which we talked about preaching, that's not my gig, y'all. Like, that's not like let me be clear, like, at the time, like, that would like, I'm not just out here, like, trying to like, pull out, like, what I mean, now I'm, like, encouraging everyone to, like, get into leadership in churches. But, like, in 2023, I was sitting on the side of a mountain, and there was such a just dramatic shift when you started talking about doubting Thomas, and I remember writing it, and I almost didn't say it because I was like, "This feels like a jump." I don't know you
Mm,
super well. Like, I mean, obviously, I've read your work, and I'm like, "She's open." But I feel like this is what it means to say yes to your life, is to also say, like, yes to, like, the things that don't make sense at the time.
mhm,
Um, and and letting I know you were talking earlier about how, like, giving birth, like, the number one thing that everyone told me, was, like, parenthood is about surrender, and your biggest moment of surrender will be, like, the initiation of, like, getting that kid into the world.
mhm,
And, that, like, you can surrender to the fact that your body actually has all the biological mechanisms to grow and birth as people with who can make babies.
mhm,
And I feel like there's some parallel there maybe that, like, the writing had some element of surrender for you.
mhm,
Um, and I think if there's anyone watching who, like, has been through their own deconstruction or, spiritual explosion, um, I think the thing that feels so, I think, important that I felt like was showing up in your work was that you weren't trying to get back into that sense of safety again.
mhm.
You were
Yeah.
actually okay with, like, not knowing where it's gonna go next, and
Mhm,
I feel like that's often the invita I wouldn't say invitation, 'cause it's not fun. Let's just say this is not fun to deconstruct from the faith that you were raised in. It's not fun.
yeah. No.
0% fun. Um,
Mhm,
and, um, but I feel like all of the preconceived notions inside, like, a faith that kind of needs things to be tidy also parallel with, like, the preconceived notions of what it means to be a writer.
mhm. For sure.
And, um, I just I think I wanted to talk to you today because we'd like to have really tidy goals in how we write and what we publish and what we share. And I feel like if you had been too tidy, I don't know I don't know what doors would have opened instead, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, and so I'm so curious about, like, do you I am gonna ask for a tidy question. Do you know what you wanna do when you're done with seminary? Like, this book opened the door, you said yes, and now you're in seminary and you're about to be a parent.
Mhm.
Like, how does that feel?
It feels, yeah, it's crazy, but I think, like, I'm tracking right online with you um, because, yeah, I feel and, obviously, I'm not a parent yet. I have been a foster mom, so there I have, like, a smidge of experience, but, yeah, there is definitely a parallel, I think, in that, surrender in both the writing process as well as I would venture to say in the parenting process. Surrender has to become habitual. It's not something that you do one time and you're like, okay, that's it. Like I surrendered and now I get to regain control and this needs to go on my timeline and be exactly what I thought it was supposed to be. No, it's like it's over and over and over and over and over. You have to surrender. And I think it's like that in faith too. Like you're talking about, like, you can't go into a deconstruction process or a parenting process or the writing process and say, here are my non-negotiables. As long as you play within these rules, we'll be okay. Like, all of those experiences are going to shatter your boundaries and push you beyond that. And it never ever gets easier is what I'm finding. And I love, Sarah Bessey is like such a beautiful voice that has been like come before us and has like she's mothered me through my deconstruction process. And she equates it to like sorting out an attic, which I feel like is very lovely and very gentle. It was not that way for me. The writing process or my deconstruction process, both, they were more like a house fire. And it was like you have to leave everything. You do not get to pick and choose your darlings. Like you have to just run because this is survival right now. And once the flames die down and the smoke clears, you can go back and find things that you did not realize were sterling, that you did not realize would stay. But lo and behold, this is something that survived. It's something that could withstand the flame of that trial. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um,
I did not answer your tiny question. I'm sorry.
I don't even remember what it was now, friend. Oh
I don't.
god.
I don't know what I want to do. The question was, what do you want to do after?
There
Um,
we go.
yeah. I mean, writing will always be part of me, and, I've
Yeah.
been very, very blessed to be, asked to join the teaching team of a spiritual collective. So I'm preaching, maybe, like, once a quarter right now, trying to figure out what that looks like as I become a parent, but yeah, I don't know. I'm still holding very loosely whatever comes next.
Um, well, now I'm curious because in my offline work, I haven't published any of this yet. I recently did a creative exercise where I said, I am going to write a sermon now. And then I like watched and observed myself. Like I proclaimed it as if I were behind the pulpit, which is, I mean, I've never done this before. Um, the quality of the writing was dramatically different. The quality
Mm.
of the voice, dramatically different. The weaving together, dramatically different. I'm curious if you've noticed any difference in like your process for pulling together a message that you know is going to be received. And can you give us an idea of what does that look like to like preach once a quarter? Like, are you in a church or is it like a neutral gathering? And like, what's the process of getting there versus writing in your book?
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a good question. I have not myself stepped back and kind of analyzed that yet. But I would say in my writing, I feel like I'm talking like one on one, like I'm writing to my sister.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
yeah. And then
yeah.
when I'm writing to my Vinings Lake family, which is the spiritual collective that I'm part of, it's more, and I don't know if I'm falling into a trap here, but I feel like it has to be the cadence that people expect when they see somebody on, behind a pulpit or preaching or whatever. There's a different more like invitational kind of voice that they're expecting. Very heavy on like how this applies to you, not so much introspective on like how this is affecting me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It's less, it's more invitational and more like kind of handing something back, which honestly is also what makes really good essays. um, um, versus like documenting through memoir. The invitation is the sharing, whereas like, well, there's lots of different ways to do it, but I'm curious because this is a tool I'm playing with in the back end, and it's just bringing out really different writing for me. And it I wrote the first 2 ones, and I jumped out of my chair, and I said, "I don't know what to do with this.
Mm,
Like, I don't know what to do. Where does this fit?" Like, I have no
yeah.
idea. Well, I know where it fits eventually, but I feel like there's there's just some interesting tools, I think, when we start to sense, like, that idea of, like, this is gonna come even if I don't want it to. I don't want to stop it, and I'm thinking of Susan Piver right now. She has a great saying where I asked her once, I said, uh, like, "How do you know when you have your next book? Like, the next book for you to write?" She's written a handful of really great books on meditation, and, her most recent one, I think it's called, Inexplicable Magic. It's fantastic.
Okay.
She said, "I know when I found my next book because the idea has nothing to do with me, but it couldn't exist without me."
Mm, that's good.
And it reminded me of what you said earlier, where it's like, this is coming through regardless of what regardless of how I might try to, like, clamp it down or make it tidy. Um, I'm wondering, like, I'm jumping a little bit here, and thanks for hanging with us, folks, but, like, everything you're saying is just really curious to me. What would you tell someone if they feel like, "Okay, I'm doing all of this kind of other writing." Let's say, like, they're a gardener, but they really, really, really wanna do this. Like, what would you say, like, because there's a bit of a crossover in how your life is changing since your book came into the world.
Mm.
Um, you didn't have, like, a five-step goal plan to, like, join a preaching collective, like a spiritual collective. I wonder if we can just give folks just some little bites of, like, what does it feel like to just to say yes? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, I would say that, and I am a planner. Like I love structure. I love to have a plan and a map, and so I understand the inclination of like wanting to have that, the security in that. And then at the same time, I'm trying to view life and whatever journey I'm on. Like the goal is just experience. The goal is just to be here um and to fully enjoy whatever that means. And if the goal is experience, then like there's no like you know detours. There's no like offshoots. There's no like getting lost. Like this is an open world experience, and you get to decide. So if there's something like right now I have a group of women that I like will text with, and we're kind of all writing in this same kind of fringe faith space. Um, and a lot of them right now are like, I actually really want to write fiction. Like I've got this really great idea, and it's lightning, and I can't get away from it. And I'm like, go for it. Like just lean into it, because like that's the thing about this work and stories in general is like there's like a witchiness happening here, and like who are we to be like, no, it's not part of the plan. It's not part of my structure, like just play.
As you were as you were talking, I couldn't help but think about, like, um and this is a jump, stay with me, folks, like, the fact that we all went through a collective, like, experience like COVID, and we're
Mm,
all experiencing, like, the collective, like, stretching and recovery process, and I feel like there's something connected there with, like, having this focused time where, like, your life was not in your control in a
yeah.
very significant way, and, like, I don't know, I just wanna be around people who are in that space. Or like, I'm ready to throw it off. I'm ready to throw off, like, the plans, the organizing, or uh 'cause I agree with you, structure is good, but I didn't uncover anything good by following all the plans. Like,
Mhm.
I didn't I don't you don't make discoveries that way, like, you
Mhm.
get it to your people that way, like, when you structure it, and I wonder if that's what's happening because I see that a lot on Substack. People use it as, like, a creative incubator, like,
Mhm.
folks who have like, they basically come here to, like, tuck away
Yeah.
and play with, like, their writing and let it be raw again or let it be new or let it be fresh, and it's like, I don't know, maybe that's what saying yes to your life is, like, being kind of misunderstood, like, in, like, what you're doing next, and, um, I don't know, I like being around people who say yes to their life in that way, like, it's fun, like, it gives me permission, and I think that's something that was really lovely about your story is that, um, it was just so surprising, like
Mm.
and sometimes surprises aren't, like, um sometimes surprises can kinda knock you like, take the wind out of your sails, you know? But
Yeah.
in this case, like, I feel like there's just so much ahead, and I'm thinking a lot about the people that might say, "Well, I need to take a 10-week course on how to write a book proposal, and I'm gonna
Mm.
research all of the agents out there, and I'm going to go after these somewhat unattainable, publishing houses, and I'm gonna do all this work." And I think that work is good and it's valid, and if that's your path, like, you have to do that work, and sometimes your work is trying to tell you something different, and I've thought about that when we were getting ready to talk. I was like, "What if she had spent 3 years just trying to get in with an agent?"
Yeah.
Like, what
And
what
I
h what would have gone differently? It could have gone
yeah,
wonderful. It could have
it
gone
could've.
wonderful. It could have,
Mhm.
um, or it could have gone this way. It
Yeah.
could have opened up doors, and I find that saying yes to the unknown, it seems to pay off.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
definitely more interesting. Um,
It is. Yeah.
so
Mhm.
I don't know,
Yeah.
friend. I feel like the point of talking today was to give people permission. Um, was to give people permission and to just look, I think, with a like have a conversation with the work that you're afraid to bring into the world. And I'm preaching to myself right now. um, like, what do you want to become? What does this piece want to become? What does this writing? What does this voice want to become? And um, it could mean starting a publication. It could mean being hybrid published. It could mean um, submitting to literary journals. But like that relationship with the writing is so curious to me, and I haven't found a way to actually separate that from my actual life, and I'm not sure
Mm.
if it's supposed to. Like, do you feel a
Yeah.
separation?
No, yeah, I agree with you so much. Like, so much of it has to do with yeah, like, there's timing and there's, like, these moments where your dev editor will be like, "Have you ever thought of preaching?" And, like, there's all of these little things that are happening, like, external of you head down doing the work. And I feel like when you start to see the constellation of those things that are like this person said this and this person said this and this is how I'm feeling and I read this thing, like once you start to see that, like gives me chill bumps because it's like that's the story. Like she's coming for you, and it may cost something to say yes to that, but oh my gosh, I hope you do.
Yeah. Well, I'm mindful of the time, and I feel like we should tell folks, like, where they can, like, read more of your writing, like, or, like, where are you publishing your work right now? Where are you hanging out with your voice?
Yeah. I still am on Substack. It's laurensabini.substack.com. Because I've been in seminary, I've been writing lots of like academic papers. So I've not been there as much as I want to be, but with baby on the way, I'm taking a residency semester. So I'm hoping to be able to get back. Because I also have come across some incredible articles and just like nuggets that have impacted my ongoing deconstruction, reconstruction, spiritual, whatever journey that I am really excited to share with folks. Hopefully, like coming like summer, fall.
Awesome. Well, we'll in the replay, we'll link to where you write right now. So this will replay on the co-writing studio, which is where I'm tucking away right now. Most people know me in the publishing spectrum. I have a great community over there where we kind of do a choose your own adventure approach to Substack with like strategy around like readership and writing. We kind of do more of the shape and the data and stuff like that in a I think in a different way. I think it's really good.
Mm,
We're happy there, but my co-writing studio is where I'll be deciding when and where to share poetry and try to basically, in some ways, say yes to my own life that's coming to the surface right now, um, and more of that sort of free range writer approach. So my
amazing.
focus right now is like spiritual resuscitation as like
Mm,
a concept and like how do we resuscitate spiritually without having to get back into a box. And I think what I'm trying to show is like how the lungs breathe through the writing. And so
yeah.
um we'd love to you and me are gonna hang out more. We're gonna write some more stuff together.
Ooh,
I have a hunch.
yeah.
I have a hunch.
I'm second. I love that so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thanks if you're watching the replay. I just want you to know I am thinking of you. I'm thinking of the people who are watching, maybe with a sandwich in their lap, because I'm often the sandwich and lap lady catching replays. So thank you for being here. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, I want to be cheesy and say, I hope you say yes to your life. Like, I hope you say yes. Say yes to your writing. Say yes to your life.
Jump in. The water's great.
The water's great. All right.
Thank you so much,
Bye, folks.
Amanda.
Thanks. Bye.